From hard-hitting journalist to dabbling within reality TV to ghostwriting for some very well-known celebrities to now owning a company whose main product has been dubbed the golden pill, which increases the libido of women naturally. She has built a multi-million-pound empire through pure grit and determination. Elissa Corrigan joins me to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of starting an e-commerce business from scratch.
Like when I was at that press agency, I was 12 grand a year.
So like, what is the incentive?
So like, I used to get me paid £891 a month.
I know.
There was no business plan. Like, it was with the best of intentions. There was no intention. There was no business plan. There was no nothing. It was just, and I think if I had a thought about it, you know, far into the future, it's like you'd never get started. You'd become paralysed by all the things that you have to do.
Yeah.
But I was in lockdown and I used to run health retreats at the time. I was really into health and wellness all the way through whatever I've been doing. I was quite into health and wellness. Used to run health retreats. They were going really well, but the lockdown happened and then I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I thought, how can I still support my ladies while we're at home? And it was one message off one lady who asked me about what could I take potentially for my libido. I thought, wow. Last person I would have thought would have asked me on this. And I thought, well, she's asking me. Maybe this is a big issue, don't know. You can't remember anything in a meeting. You slip in, you forget, and you literally can't even work because you get an anxiety about things. And now you're not the person you used to be.
Yeah.
I started this business with 50 grand bounce back loan and it washes its own face. It pays its own bills. You know what I mean? I've never taken any money. How would I value it though? Probably would you know, comfortable multi-millions turnover.
My name is Claudia Green and this is She Did That, the podcast shining a spotlight on remarkable women who are breaking barriers and proving that greatness knows no gender. From female founders who have raised millions of pounds, the investors changing the landscape as we know it, to survivors of tragedy who have achieved the amazing and many more. We will share the stories of these incredible women who will inspire and empower you. In order to support us and these women, please subscribe on your viewing or listening channel of choice so we can continue our mission of sharing the stories that should and need to be heard.
Elissa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for having me.
You've come far.
I know, eventually. I think we've tried to book this in and it was my fault the first time. I was dealing with drama in work. There's always a fire to put out, but that one was a particularly
it sounded brutal.
It was roaring, yeah. So
it's all right. I'm glad you came here and you came all the way from Liverpool.
Yeah.
Sunny Liverpool. I'm very excited to delve into your story. You sent me your products a few weeks ago. Been taking the golden pill. Will not comment on whether it has been working or not.
Have you got a partner?
Yeah.
Okay. So
don't worry. I'm not like an alley cat. No, you've made me a maniac now.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I loved it. I loved the presentation. Everything, like, the way the box came all wrapped. It was just absolutely beautifully presented. But before we delve into the products, I'd love to hear about you and early life, because I think that really shapes people's journeys in some way. Let's go with, you're from Lancashire.
Yes, so I'm from a town in Lancashire called Blackburn, and my mum and dad split up when I was about 4, so kind of lived with my mum most of the week and then my dad every single weekend. Very different lifestyles, and when you are a child of divorced parents, you can literally be different people. You know, I was a totally different person with my mum than I was with my dad. You know, I could get away with anything with my mum. You know, she was very lax. And then my dad was very strict and on me and stuff like that, which was the right thing to be. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad I had that steady hand. Kids need boundaries, and I was almost boundaryless half the week. So yeah, I went to a really good school. It was an all-girls school, and that definitely shaped me into like the woman I am today. And everybody who kind of went to that school, there's lots of people you will know.
Really?
And yeah, and then people go, how do you know that person? I'm like, went to school with her. And they're like, wow. And I could name like 4 or 5 people that
name drop me. Someone.
Okay, Jess Cunningham, do you know her? No. She was on The Apprentice, and now she does
yes.
like belief coding,
yes.
and she's absolutely smashing it now. But she went to school with her, another girl who's now into politics. She's called Rebecca Jane. She's done loads.
I've heard of her.
She was on a couple of things. She's done Big Brother, and she was the UKIP. Yes. She was she was part of UKIP at one point or whatever, but she's a real like firebrand of a woman. Camilla Ainsworth, she went to my school.
Yeah.
Helen Flanagan, who was on
Really?
Corrie.
Yeah, I know Helen Flanagan.
There's a lot of like very kind of out there women, and everybody goes, how do you know these women? I'm like, I went to school with them. So that's kind of, it was a really kind of a place where it instilled confidence in you, a real can-do attitude. You know, you can kind of do whatever the boys are doing. Really good school, really good education, amazing facilities. So it was the best.
Are you a spokesperson for the school?
Do you know what? They couldn't give a flying fuck about me. They really couldn't. It's not like they're ever going, oh, Elissa, will you come back and talk to the students? They do not care. They've got so many people who are like in Parliament, who are, you know, at London School of Economics, like unbelievable science.
But are they naturally increasing people's sex drives?
Yeah. Funnily enough, some of my teachers are now my customers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so uncomfortable. Hang on. So, okay.
And I'm like, she's like, you know, you can call me Rachel now. I was like, no, I cannot. And I always call her, well, I won't say her name, but I always call her Mrs. Whatever, even today.
I love that.
Yeah.
But they must be a little bit older now.
Yeah, they are. But I always, one of my teachers, actually, my business studies teacher, funnily enough, I was actually got an A in business studies, and I never really applied myself, but I managed to do well in it. And she died. And then I was like, oh no. And then I was messaging my other teacher saying, oh, you know, she was my business studies teacher. And she said, well, and I said, to be fair, she was like my first kind of way into business. And she was like, well, if she could see you now, she'd be so proud. So that was really nice. But yeah, I suppose I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, never really harnessed it. Although, you know, at like the age of like 8, 9, I was selling cushions around cushions around the cul-de-sac that me and my friend would make on a sewing machine.
This is sounding very bougie.
They were absolutely crap because we could never do the last. You'd put the cushion in, you could never do the last side dead neat, you know, and it was really hard to put zips in.
But they bought it because they were uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course, because you'd be knocking on the door saying, "Can you buy a cushion?" And then we did flowers one week.
Did you just pick them?
You know, it would be like artificial flowers, and then we'd put them in like some oasis and make them all like flower displays. Yeah. Again, everyone on our road used to buy them. So that was kind of, you know, when people say, oh, when did you get into business? I'm like, 8 years old.
Do you know what you hear from a lot of particularly female entrepreneurs? You do hear that like the journey has started very, very, very young. Yeah. I'm trying to think what mine first one was. There was a sexy car wash when I was 12 and it wasn't sexy. It was very... 12? It was horrifying. And I didn't grow boobs till I was 18, so you can imagine it was actually like when my dad pulled up from work and saw me and my best friend in a bikini and heels, he was like... What on earth? Oh my God. I would literally be on a very busy road. Yeah. We didn't have one customer, like not a single person, but now I understand why.
You'd feel like a bit of a perv, yeah.
Well, obviously, if you've got a 12-year-old in a bikini with a flat chest and their mum's heels... sexily washing the windscreen. So I think there was always something that, you know, wanted to make money. I remember I sold cheap jewellery once because I was like, all these jewellery companies are making millions and it's like cheap rubbish. But no, that didn't go very well. I even had a blow dry bar.
Oh, nice.
That like went round to offices doing blow dries. Not great margins, it turns out.
That would be difficult. It's intense and it requires you to be there to make the money as well.
Exactly, yeah.
The jewellery one could have done well.
Yeah, if it didn't turn your fingers green.
Yeah, if you'd invested more in the product maybe.
Slight problem, yeah. So tell me, did you go to university?
I did. I went to uni in Liverpool, started doing law, absolutely hated it.
I bet you would have been...
Didn't know what else to pick.
I don't know, if I was like banged up for murder, You are like the sort of character I'd want fighting for me.
No, I never went to a lesson. Genuinely, I was too young to go to university, and I should have had a gap year. I was too young to go to university because I was a young 18. I'd only just turned 18.
And it's law. It's a very intense course.
Yeah, I was just like away with the fairies, didn't pay attention, literally went to about four lessons, that was it. Somehow my coursework was miraculously amazing.
Really?
Yeah, because my dad's a solicitor, so
Wow.
he was never going to let me fail that. So then it came to like exam time and I was like, Dad, I can't do this. And he was furious.
I bet he was fuming.
Oh my God, I just remember... I used to genuinely say to the people in my flat, I was like, you need to break my arm or something because I need an excuse to not do these exams. I need to be seriously ill or can't write. And Kira was like, who lived with me, she was like, we can't break your arm. I was like panicking. And I had to just ring my dad one morning, I thought, and he just cancelled all his appointments for that day.
Oh.
Came steaming over to Liverpool, furious with me. And I was just like, oh my God, don't want to do this. So I then ended up going back into first year again, which was the right thing to do. I shouldn't have started that year. And I did something that no one could help me with and I was really good at, which was English and history. So did 3 years of that.
I think it's great that you restarted though.
Yeah.
Like, because some people might be disheartened.
I wasn't getting a job at that stage. So I did English and history and then I graduated with a 2-1 and then thought, oh, what can I do now? I'm still not ready for work, you know. So I went back to uni again.
Did you?
Did a master's in journalism. And I only picked this because one of my friends from school said, I'm doing this journalism course. So I was like, yeah, I think I'd be a good journalist. I knew nothing about it. I didn't even read newspapers at the time, knew nothing. But I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And it was a really tough course to get into. There was only 25 spaces. And everyone had told me this was tough. It was at UCLan. It was one of the best in the country. Anyway, so this is a mad story. So the day I had my my written exam to go and meet the university teachers, so to get a place, you had to do a bit of an exam and meet the teachers. Yeah. And there was about 80, 100 people and only 25 spaces.
Oh my God.
And so I thought I'll go into town and go and buy a shirt and so something to wear for tomorrow. So I'm walking in Liverpool and I'm walking to Next. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw Holly Willoughby with a film crew. And I was like, oh God, they're coming over. I can see them coming over.
Really?
I was like strutting down the street, I had heels on and looked great. Anyway, I'm pretending I haven't seen them, but I have, right? And I can see them in my periphery and I'm just keeping walking. And then she darts in front of me. She goes, excuse me, can I just stop you? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, can I just ask you what's the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for you? She starts asking me these questions. And it was Streetmate. And they said, are you single? I said, yes, I am. And they were like, okay, well, are you free tomorrow? And I was like, well, no, but I can try and rearrange it. So
stop it.
I had to ring the university and say, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to make it tomorrow.
Because I'm on Streetmate.
Yeah, this has come up. And they were fine about it and they gave me another date for 2 weeks later. Anyway, so I ended up going around for that whole day with Holly Willoughby and this film crew and trying to find someone to go on a date with the next day.
And now he's here.
No. And God bless the guy. There was nobody that day, I swear. They were like, who do you, I was like, tall, dark, handsome, all these, classic things. We're walking around all day. And anyone that was remotely good looking's got a girlfriend or whatever. Anyway, we went to Flannels and there was a guy in the windows quite far up. There was 4 floors in Flannels. And she was like, oh, what about him? Now, in the sun from miles away, looked half decent. Anyway, so she goes in, asks him, are you single? Yeah, single. And she's like, she comes back to me, she goes, oh, he's gorgeous.
He's gorgeous.
He's really tall, he's got these green eyes, all this, right? Anyway, so we hadn't found anyone better that day. He's the guy, Phil. So I meet him on camera and I just... he just was not my type.
Can you tell, you like me?
I was like, wow, okay. And the next day they had to film me and my friends, like me getting ready for this date and all this. And we had to go shopping together and then go for dinner. But he didn't have anyone like last minute to like call on his mates.
I'm cringing.
So he had to get his mum to like be on camera, like, and she was like ironing his clothes.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I felt sorry for him because she's going, what about these, Philip?
No.
These jeans. And she's like, oh, they've got rips. And he's like, Mum, that's like trendy. Do you know what I mean? It was just like...
Oh, Phil, if you're out there, did you find someone in the end? Is your mum still ironing you?
Well, we were Facebook friends for a while, but he's binned me off. So, yeah.
Maybe he was feeling a bit bitter.
But
Sour
bless him.
grapes.
But he was so nice about me on camera because then they'd take me out of the restaurant and they'd say, how do you think about, you know, what's going on with Phil? I was like, there's absolutely zero chemistry, none. And he would film him and go, she's one of the best looking women I've ever met.
No.
And then they used to cut it together. And then I saw like a write-up in the paper that said, watching Elissa and Phil was like watching a Rottweiler with a Labrador puppy. But I was just really confident because I thought, I've got zero interest in this guy. I was like...
And you're on national TV.
I know, but I was like young 20s at the time. Must have been 22, 23, something like, I don't know. And he was like 31. Anyway, to go back to uni.
That was a great little sidestep. I loved it. Yeah.
So then I actually went to my exam and yeah, I nailed it. Out of everybody there, there's 5 of us. And they said, you know, we're looking for like the top line. So they give you like a passage to read and blah, blah, blah. And I'm reading all the way through it. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, but that's the most interesting. Highlight that. And I made that my top sentence. And they went, you've got it. You've got it. And I was like, oh, great. I'm all right at this. And actually that has served me well even today, because the whole job, anything you want to do, it doesn't matter what it is, whether you're writing for a newspaper or you're writing copy or you're creating a product, it's about hooks, it's about headlines, it's about that attention grabbing thing. And that, I would say, is probably the only thing I'm good at.
I wouldn't say the only thing you're good at. But like journalism is really competitive. Yeah. So did you get a job straight away when you left uni?
Yeah, I did actually. I went to, and there's no money in journalism whatsoever, but I went to a press agency, which is, I knew I didn't want to do local news. And I got offered local news jobs, but I thought, I don't care about such a body's bin fire or whatever, some post office issue, some tribunal that wasn't for me.
Some post office issue that turned out to be the Horizon scam. Yeah, you could have blown it open.
Oh God, it was just not for me, local news. So I went to a press agency on work experience, and it was like a baptism of fire. I could not believe it. It was like my teacher said, you should go there. You could handle it. Because there was a boy who'd gone in my class the week before me, and he left after 2 days crying. And I was like, fucking hell. And I said to my teacher, I said, he's got left crying. He went, he's a wallflower. You're not, you'll handle it. And I was like, okay.
Did you handle it?
I knew what I was going into then. And yeah, it was tough. But I will say, even though, you know, you would just never, I mean, you're into HR, you would never get away with some of the things that used to go on in there in a million years in the way they used to speak to you. But I stand by, 1, it makes you more resilient, and 2, he was only bollocking me to make me a better journalist in the end. Yeah. Because other places that I would go for work experience would just, they'd say, go and write a story on XYZ, you'd go and write it, and then you'd see it in the paper and it would be completely different. And I'd be like, well, that's not what I wrote.
So they really do change, they can really change your words.
Whereas he would say, right, he'd read it and he'd go, right, Elissa, come here and sit next to me. And he would go through line by line why it wasn't correct. And so then I knew he was trying to make me better. And that's the only reason you got bollocked. Yeah. And I always think that now. We've got a girl who's on work experience working for us at the moment. And I'm always like, yeah, this isn't great, but I'm going to sit down with you and tell you what I think would make it better. And that is what work experience is. I'm not expecting them to be the finished product, but giving your experience is what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, he was like one of the hardest newsmen you could ever meet, but you know, he was only doing it to make you better and make you push yourself a lot further than everybody else, because at the end of the day you're in the business of selling stories, so you
it's a pretty cutthroat industry.
You have to go further, harder than the next person who is also going to go further and harder than you. It's very cutthroat. The pace you've got to be at, you know, you could get something in the morning, it's got to be done by 4:00, finished with pictures, with everything. Got to have been to that house. The house might have been in North Wales, which was 3 hours away. Yeah,
and it might be a sensitive topic, so quite uncomfortable.
Of course, there's no sensitivity. It's like bang on that door and get it done, you know. And somebody asked me last week. I was like talking at an event, and they were like, were you ever in any dangerous situations? I was like, you're joking? Like all the time, some crazy situations are very dangerous situations. But
what's the craziest situation you were in?
Oh,
were you in a murderer's house or something?
No, but I mean, there's some that really stick out. There was one with a footballer. There was he'd been with a prostitute, and we knew he had, and he really didn't care. But I had to go and like ask him about it. So I had to wait till he came back from training, and he's there with his missus in the car, and they had these electric gates, and I could see his car coming up. I thought, oh God, this is my chance. And I've got a photographer with me. And so I get out the car, and you've got to be quite brave in this moment. Anyway, there was a picture of this prostitute in a paper. So I'd folded over the paper, and there's about a 10-second delay on waiting for these like gates to open before you can drive through. So I just bang on the window, he puts the window down, and I was like, do you know this woman? And he was like, just started screaming at me. Do you know what I mean? The pap's taking loads of pictures. Like I've got loads of pictures of this incident, which I just keep on my old computer. But anyway, so he's like screaming at me, blah, blah, blah. I've got this great picture. He's got his finger in my face, and I've got the paper in his face and all this. Anyway, about 2 to 3 weeks later, I was on another job in Manchester doing Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
So they were all in the Radisson Edwardian, like Ant Deck and Michael McIntyre and all the judges, whatever. And so all the crew and everything. So they were all in there. So my job was just go there, see if anything happens. And at the other end of the bar, I walk in there. At the other end of the bar is the footballer.
Oh, no.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, he's going to know exactly who I am and rat me straight out. Anyway, so I'm sat at the bar, just, you know, minding my own business. Anyway, the next thing I know, a drink comes over, like vodka and cranberry. And the waiter went from the guy at the end of the bar.
Stop
and
it.
I was like, all right. Anyway, so he comes over and he's like chatting away. And he said, so I recognise you from somewhere. I was like,
God.
I was like, oh, I'm always in here. And he was like, what do you do? I said, I'm a trainee solicitor. So then he asked me for my BBM pin. So I was like,
God.
yeah, there's my BBM pin. And
you gave it to him?
Yeah, because I thought this guy is
you wanted to get a scoop.
This guy was notorious. He was always doing something. He was literally in the paper every other week for doing something.
Was it John Terry?
No, it wasn't. But, you know, like he'd always be at big teams. He was an absolute arsehole on and off the pitch. So it was like notorious. Whatever he did or said, it was going to make the news. So you keep things like that. But anyway, he then like used to just send the maddest pictures, or just put, you know, like your BBM profile pictures. He'd just put the maddest pictures up there. So he used to like screenshot them and whatever. And then he used to send me like pictures of like him getting a massage with like his arse out and stuff like that. Yeah, vile. Anyway, he then became a big signing for a Scottish club. And I was like, great. So he's now really topical again. And he had this treasure trove of shit I could give them. So that was great. So, you know.
Did he work it out in the end?
I don't think he gave a shit. He really didn't give a shit. He really didn't. He was really genuinely don't care. You know what I mean?
Poor wife.
I know, I felt sorry for her actually. But whether me or not, he was literally in the news every week for doing something. Whether it was like getting banned driving or whatever. Crazy.
That's
just one like crazy situation. Do you know what I mean? I could give you like so many more.
But it's nuts because like it's a very cutthroat
like
industry.
One day. That's like one day, and then you've got 5 of those days.
No, I can only imagine
that are
how
mental.
you've probably put yourself in some really dangerous situations as well, which is alarming. But it's weird because like you're sort of trained to be like
if you
very
thought about
aggressive
it, you
with
would
it.
have. Yeah, you thought.
But you're not
about it,
given
you wouldn't do
commission,
it.
are you?
Are you joking? My first, like when I was at that press agency, I was $12,000 a year.
So like, what is the incentive?
So
It's
like, I used to
almost
get me paid £891 a month.
I know that one.
What the fuck?
But like, what's the incentive? It's almost like they indoctrinate you to be like aggressive. But it's like, what's your actual incentive?
Yeah, I don't really know what it was. I was just like, okay, well, I was just kind of happy at the time and didn't really think about it, but I just knew kind of I was cutting my teeth there. And then I left there and then went freelance. And I did all right freelance, but I couldn't have gone freelance straight away because I didn't know how to like package a story or stuff. I knew it wasn't going to be my main goal. There's not enough money in journalism. Even
So
today.
how many years did you spend in journalism?
I mean, it never really leaves you, does it? But probably until I was about 25, 26.
Okay.
Like full time.
Yeah.
And then I did a TV show called Desperate Housewives, which was just a laugh.
What do you mean you did the TV show?
So it did, like, it was on the TV show Desperate Housewives. It had like one season. It was like a Towie.
So you were one of the Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait to go home tonight and start like
Watching that, don't watch that.
Yeah.
But that genuinely, I was never going to go through with that. I just thought it would be a good story to see how you get on a reality TV show. So every single meeting I ever had with them, I used to like record the meetings and whatever. And then I'd really burnt a few bridges as well with a few journalists that I did know. And I thought, oh God, I'm not going back to work for them or them.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, maybe I just give it a go and actually do the show.
Yeah.
Because Towie obviously was big at that time. They were making loads of dough. So I was like, okay, fair enough. So did that.
I'm so sure I watched that series and I before I met you.
I look a bit
obviously
different
I've
now.
looked at so many photos of you and I'm like, where do I know her from? Maybe that's
it. But
who are you on with?
there's Amanda Harrington.
Yeah.
Jill and Debbie. Who else was on? Jodie, Layla.
I remember Layla.
Yeah, she's still my friend today. But yeah, it was a laugh. Listen, it was great. And
it's a great life experience.
yeah, of course. And like, I never thought it was going to be me a multimillionaire like the rest of them did. It was crap while we were filming it. It was so bad. Like, it was so bad. It was way too scripted. And the problem was, like, they were trying to like force like romances with everybody, but everybody had like a boyfriend who wasn't on the show.
Wait, but it's called Desperate Housewives. I thought that meant you were supposed to be the wife of someone.
Yeah, not one of us was married.
What?
I'm not desperate either, by the way.
I was never suggesting.
But yeah, no, it was kind of like all about like, it's a bit like Towie, that's all it was. It was just like
like a bit of drama.
Yeah, but everybody had like a boyfriend off the show or a girlfriend off the show. So there was no real chemistry or romance going on the show. It was so staged. And obviously, and these girls were never going to bring these boyfriends on the show because they're always trying to avoid the law, half of these men. So it was just like one of these, it was just crazy. So it became ultra scripted, which meant it was just, not very good television. And you can see it. It's so embarrassing to watch back. Okay. And I look dreadful on it. I look like 10 ton Tess. I really do.
I'm still going to watch it later.
Honestly. But anyway, so I did that. God, I feel like this is like Michael Parkinson.
I know, I'm going to present you with the book. Do, 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 do.
This is your life, Elissa. Yeah.
I feel like there's so much more life.
Yeah. So
we'll do this in 30
we're gearing up to what we're actually here to talk about, which is Elle Sera. So I did, so Desperate Housewives was a laugh. So, but then I kind of went back. I met loads of people on reality TV, obviously doing that and, ballooning around in nightclubs, doing PAs, like what the fuck, do you know what I mean? People actually turning up to meet me, mental. Asked me for a picture. Anyway, but I did meet quite a lot of like the Geordie Shore girls and people like that. So I ended up writing their autobiographies.
Stop it.
I was a writer, yeah. So I went back to doing the writing.
So wait, which of them have autobiography?
Can't say a lot of them. I can't say a lot of the books that I did, but like Holly Hagan's, anything she's ever done was me and her.
So it's like a ghostwriting thing.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting...
Girl from the Valleys, Letitia, she was a laugh.
I love the way you just like throw in these really interesting facts. Like, yeah, I did that. Anyway.
Just did a bit of ghost writing. So the writing's never left me, and it's my strongest medium, I would say. I hate doing video.
Sorry about that.
I hate doing podcasts, even though I have one. Definitely the written word is my strongest talent. But unfortunately, in today's climate, it is just no one cares. No one wants to read anything.
Which I think is nuts. Although I read, I'm a bit ashamed, but I read the Daily Mail online, like when I wake up, and the sheer number of spelling errors.
It's just absolute dross, isn't it? We once gifted a girl who then gifted on to another girl. We were gifting products for her event. She then gifted one of these, another influencer, a load of our products. And we got so many messages about, why have you gifted that girl, blah, blah, blah. Like personal messages to me on my profile going, and I'm like, well, actually we gifted to this event and then they've gifted it on to her. Not that I need to explain myself anyway. And they're like, no, doesn't sit well with me, that, Elissa.
What?
And I was like,
have a day off.
Who the fuck are you? Fuck off. Do you know what I mean? And then I get written about on Tattle. I think, oh, fuck off. And the maddest thing is, there was one of my friends, she's a big influencer, blogger. She found out who a lady was, who was one of her profiles was on there. And she said, Elissa, you seem to comment on her stuff all the time. And I said, who is it? And she showed me and I was like, oh my God, I would never have believed that that woman, who I thought was really sound, would ever sit there and be like,
oh, you knew who this person was?
Yeah.
It's disgraceful.
Only from like Instagram, but she'd followed me for 10, 15 years. And she always sends me nice messages.
This is why society...
It's mental, isn't it?
Floors me at times.
You've got to... If I was one of these women sitting there and doing that, I'd just think, what is going on in my life?
What is my life?
Yeah.
Like, to do that.
So I think that's a completely different thing, you know.
Yeah.
Than
it's different.
The media commenting on it and you... Like, yeah, there's keyboard warriors being just like, you know, just offering nothing to society. Literally, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how did Elle Sera come about? What was the initial idea? Is it today what it was when you imagined it first?
Well, I could never have imagined I'd still be here today, still doing it, because there was no business plan. Like, it was with the best of intentions, there was no intention, there was no business plan, there was no nothing. It was just, and I think if I had a thought about it, you know, far into the future, it's like you'd never get started. You'd become paralysed by all the things that you have to do.
Yeah.
But I was in lockdown and I used to run health retreats at the time. I was really into health and wellness all the way through whatever I've been doing. I was quite into health and wellness. I used to run health retreats. They were going really well, but the lockdown happened. And then I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I thought, how can I still support my ladies while we're at home? And it was one message off one lady who asked me about what could I take potentially for my libido. I thought, wow.
I think they asked you.
Last person I would have asked me on this. And I thought, well, she's asking me. Maybe this is a big issue, don't know. So this is like my headline. My headlines are going here. Yeah. I was thinking female Viagra. You know, this is where it's coming from. So anyway, I started looking into it and started looking into a blend of like adaptogens. Said, I think you should take these in this dosage. And I'd looked at like clinical data to ascertain dosages and stuff. Anyway, she bought all the products and
which must have been quite a few.
Yeah,
like 10 different products. Or
yeah, it was like about 7, I think it was at the time. We've obviously reduced that to 5. The actual formula became Elle Sera was started around here. Anyway, she loved it. Saw a big improvement. I thought, oh, right, maybe there's something in this. And that was pretty much it. I started looking at Google data, realising it was a bigger issue than anyone was talking about. there was definitely chatter on forums, but nobody had brought it to the forefront, and there was nobody talking about this. Today, different landscape. There's a lot of people talking about it.
Well, people are feel a lot more confident and open to be able to talk about sex, because I mean, we've all had 5 million spam emails being like, do you want to grow your penis? Or having erection trouble or things like that. And it's always just been a thing, but you've never, ever, ever heard of, right, is a woman struggling with their libido? What's out there to help them? And it's kind of like a recurring theme for women. It's like no one really considered
the woman
in the equation.
And a woman's libido is a ridiculously knotty subject. It is not like a man's, essentially for a man, you just need to it's more like a hydraulic system. If you get blood in there, it happens. Yeah. A woman, not so much, starts with, is she feeling confident? Is she knackered? Like if you're underslept, even by an hour, like can dampen your libido by like 50%. It's crazy. So is she knackered? Is she overstimulated? What's going on in her brain? What time of the month is it?
I read about this.
Yeah.
When you're ovulating, you're at your most...
Yeah, so 2 weeks.
Frisky.
2 weeks before your period is when you're most up for it.
Yeah.
Is she feeling good? Is she feeling confident about her physique, her figure, whatever? There's a lot more psychological things that go on with a woman, and then add in if you are getting into your late 30s, long-term partner, late 40s, going through perimenopause. Hormones are really declining, so estrogen's declining, progesterone's declining, testosterone's declining, and you need these things to really kind of get you stimulated. Then you're dealing with painful sex, vaginal atrophy. So when you don't make estrogen, that makes you more lubricated. So now it's like drier than the Sahara Desert. If you do have sex, it's really painful.
This is bleak.
No, it is bleak. So, it should be talked about a lot more than it is. It's completely normal.
It's a natural thing. I do agree with that.
And there's also an argument for I read this the other day, a woman had put it out there, and I thought, yeah, you're right. So a lot of intimacy, you might really want to have intimacy with your partner, but not necessarily it lead to sex.
Yes.
But then
I hear this a lot.
If you have a bit of like cuddling up and a bit of this and that.
Then they assume.
We're going now, aren't they? Yeah. And she was like, I don't, so then partners don't do that. She'll pull away because she'll be like, well, no, I don't want to have sex.
Yes, so it's affecting the intimacy of relationships. Yeah, of course.
So then they stop cuddling, they stop talking to each other, they stop having those conversations. So naturally, I'm somebody who's like, you need to have these conversations with your partner. Tell them how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's this is why I believe the menopause should be commercialised. Mm-hmm. It should be bring men into the conversation. If we took testosterone off men at the age of 40, fuck me, what would happen? Well, it wouldn't even be a question. They'd all be on TRT immediately. But like women can't even get access to HRT if they want it. Now, some people don't want it. That's absolutely fine. They've got a risk of breast cancer in their family, or ovarian cancer, whatever. Don't take it. Take some natural alternatives. You can change things with your diet and lifestyle. HRT is not a magic bullet. You have to change your diet and lifestyle regardless. You need to be weight training, protein heavy meals.
Yeah, there's like a lot. I remember my mum was offered it when she went through the menopause. That was like 5 years, sweats, episodes of wanting to throw chairs through windows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because there was so little information out there, because I guess it was about 10 years ago now, there was so little information out there. I was like, well, I don't know how to help her. I don't know anything. At the time, I'm in my early 20s, and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about the menopause. I just know it's for older women. Now I've researched it. It's not that older women.
No, it's
not. It can start incredibly early for a young woman. And it is like psychologically and physically a huge life change, not just life change, but like it absolutely like knocks the wind out of you.
Yeah, of course.
It's a big thing.
Brain fog. I mean, you cannot remember. You might be in a big meeting at work. You might be hitting the crest of your career because you probably had time off to have a baby. So then, your male counterpart might start at the same time as you. cannot get as far as you because you've had to take 2 years off to go and have a baby. So then they're getting ahead. But you might just be coming up to the crest of your career at 42, 43, really getting to those top jobs and earning some decent money. And then what? Bam. You can't remember anything in a meeting. You slip in, you're forgetting. You literally can't even work because you get an anxiety about things. And now you're not the person you used to be.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of support out there. It is changing, definitely is changing. But this is why I believe in the more we talk about it, the more we commercialise it, and people go on about meno washing and saying, you're just trying to, you know, make money out of people. I'm like, are you joking? The more people who enter this market, who wins? Consumer wins, which will be all of us women at some stage in your life. And it also needs to be talked about so that, you know, relationships are tough.
Also, it should be, I think, like, one of the biggest issues is that the women themselves don't understand what's happening to them and aren't able to explain it, or they're very confused. And then in turn, you know, if they've got a male partner who doesn't understand the menopause, they can't explain it to them either. Yeah. So then you've got friction, lashing out, and one person suffering and they can't share it with their partner. And it's like...
Yeah, most divorces happen around that time. And alarmingly, women are suicidal at that age point. You think about all the other pressures they've got. They might have children and aging parents at the same time.
Yeah,
so they're brutal. They're trying to deal with aging parents, children, a job, household, menopause, all at one time. And it's, you know what I mean, stressful. So I feel like we're a kind of brand that understands our customer. I very much talk about it a lot. We're very much a safe space where people can talk about it. We build communities. We put people in touch with each other. We do a podcast to get experts on to talk about all these things, because while they're all kind of happening from one thing, there's all kind of individual things that are going on as well. Yeah, and you do have to kind of support yourself and try and do the best for yourself. But HRT is not a magic bullet. And I believe in a woman's right to choose. It's not the only way, but if you want to take it, take it. And if you don't.
Yeah.
But I think brands like ours exist because they need to. And I was sick of seeing kind of like, if you typed in like middle-aged women or menopausal women on Google, you would just see like these women with grey hair holding their head in their hands. And I was like...
Which is so not the case though.
I was like, fuck that. So we are a very aspirational looking brand. We always use our customers in our campaigns. And they look great. We want to show women looking vivacious and fun and funky and you know, show that midlife can look and feel amazing. Yeah. And that's really important. That's really important to me, definitely. I like to bring kind of like the French luxury perfume market to the health space.
I love that. And I think what's really interesting about you is that you've got this side of you that is like bullish, get it done, ambitious, like, you know, not ruthless because you're lovely, but, you know, like you go for it, which a lot of people don't have. And that might be like what stalls them in their career. But then you talk about this and you're so passionate about it and you really care about your customers and you really care about, like genuinely care about how they're going to feel and how you can improve their lives, which makes you so interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. You've got to. And I really respect our customers because, you know, I look at all the names on the screen and I'm like, wow, like, look at all these women who purchase from us. Like, sometimes you can become a bit too detached from that. And like, I know loads of people at other brands who just looking at figures. They're not even looking at names. They're looking at like the figures, the top line, the bottom line, what's cost to acquire a customer, all those things. And I'm sat in there going, oh God, no hair. You know what I mean? I look.
She lives on my road.
Yeah, or she's, you know, I mean, we've had some really big names buy our products and we're like screaming around the office. Yeah, so that's always exciting too. But yeah, you know, these are real people with real lives who've believed in what you're saying.
Yeah.
I treat them with a lot of respect. So I think you've got to.
What are the ingredients? Because I remember I looked at the ingredients. I was like, actually, actually, this does make sense because I've heard of some of these ingredients having a really positive impact on hormones in the body. Like, what are your core ingredients?
So we've only got 5 ingredients in there. What you see is what is in there. We don't use fillers. We don't use additives. We don't use any bulking agents, nothing like that. Because people always go, well, no, where is the real list? I'm like, that is the real list.
Yeah.
So maca, which is like great.
I've taken maca in a shake
great
before, like natural
superfood.
energy and things like that.
Yeah,
good for anxiety.
It's great adaptogen. It's one of the best. So maca's great. That's like our dominant ingredient. And then we've got tribulus in there, which is kind of the thing that will help the libido. It's mimics testosterone in the body. So women can't get testosterone in the UK unless it's off license, which is expensive because you've got to go to a private GP and get somebody to prescribe it for you. And even then, they don't really give it you. You know, it's very much under duress. It's probably going to come in soon at some point, but not right now. It's very difficult to get hold of. So trib kind of mimics that in the body. I find it really makes me leaner. It makes me, just really gives me that boost of energy in the gym as well. I love it. So we've got that in there. We've got ginkgo, which ginkgo's one and only job is pretty much... It's great for getting blood circulation around the brain.
Really?
So we spoke about brain fog.
Yeah.
And even I was listening to Daniel Harmon on Diary of a CEO, and he said that all the prettiest brains I've ever seen, and he's like looked at like 2,500 of them, they all take ginkgo.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm really happy I've started your supplements now.
And then we've got in there Siberian ginseng. Love that. It's a great adaptogen. That's really good. It doesn't let your cortisol level get too high. So, you know, if you're stressed, it'll let you get a bit stressed, but it like levels you right off. And it's good for bringing energy up, but you don't get that crash like you would from like a coffee or anything like that.
Yeah, like an artificial.
Yeah. And then the other thing we put in there is beetroot. Beetroot's amazing. Antioxidant, full of polyphenols, nitric oxide. So if you're training, doing anything, and what its main job is, it's a vasodilator. So it opens up all those blood veins, capillaries, arteries, everything like that. So the blood can get around the body better as well.
Oh my God, I need to get
it's
really,
really wonderful. We have just changed our capsule to be, honestly, like it took us like 2 years in R&D to change the capsule because I wanted to dye it with a natural dye, but it still had to look gold. And we tried loads of different things. Saffron was coming out way too expensive.
Saffron is a fortune.
It was a joke. Anyway, we settled on B2 riboflavin. So that now, it's not an active ingredient because there's not that much of it. It's just a dye, the capsule shell yellow, but I wanted a natural dye that, was gold. So it's now a matte gold instead of a shiny gold.
I think it looks great. I opened it and I was like, wow.
I know. So it's really good. And like I said, there's no fillers, no additives. It's clean ingredients. For me, that's like the gold standard. But for me, that's like par for the course. But a lot of supplement companies, they are getting better. There's a lot of like indie brands, I would say, like ours, that are really focused.
Cleaner brands, because when you actually do the research and look at some of the older brands, it is a bit scary what they've filled it in with. And I mean, I think there's a bit like, I tell you, the worst offender of anything that any woman puts on herself is makeup. It's the worst offender of anything you could ever put on. Never mind ingesting, if you're ingesting a supplement that might have a bit of whatever in magnesium stearate. But the worst offender, I look at it, nobody reads ingredients on makeup ever. And if you did, you would just be like, wow. And it never goes off. You know what I mean? If anything you ever think about, like even your supplements have a sell-by date on them. Yeah. Makeup never goes off. What the hell? It's just a load of chemicals that you're just slapping on daily into your skin, which is the biggest organ in your body, and it's just sapping it all up like a sponge. Yet here we are both in...
Well, I know, but listen, you've got to have some vices, haven't you?
I mean, I would never give it up.
I could never give it up, but I know people go on about the health supplement industry, but I think the biggest offender is the beauty industry.
To be honest, I just check if it's been tested on bunnies. If it has, I won't use it. And, or, you know, any animals.
Yeah.
Or dogs.
Cruelty-free.
Any animals, I won't. I'll only use cruelty-free makeup. But that's like as far as I check. I do think to myself, you know, when you've been on a night out and you get home and you're like, I'm not removing my makeup.
Oh, I do. I always have to do that.
Okay, so I'm
not sleep in
not
it.
so much now, but like back like in my early 20s, I'd be like leaving it on, and then you'd wake up and you'd look like, what was that one in Big Brother, Lauren Harry's?
Oh,
you'd
God,
have it like all down your face. But now you're telling me that, I'm even more alarmed that I didn't take it off my face.
No, it is bad, yeah. They are definitely the biggest offenders. And it's all single-use plastic as well, which is terrible. It's like nothing comes in glass, does it? Everything's single-use plastic.
Yeah, because it's all about margins and cost.
Of course.
And I presume when you started the brand, you had to look at every single, to a penny, what does my packaging cost? What does the labels cost?
Of course, but for me, and this, I did Bear Grylls, didn't I? The Island.
Yeah.
And when I came back from that really did shape the way I thought about things, and I started noticing how much plastic I was consuming and things like that. So when I knew when I was starting a brand, I wasn't going to exacerbate the problem that's going on in the world, because that island was absolutely full of garbage and litter and rubbish. And it was heartbreaking to see all the wildlife trying to like navigate all this rubbish that had washed up on this tiny island. You know, like Crocs everywhere. Like I could have had a new pair of Crocs every day. And so I thought I'm not going to exacerbate this problem. So I always knew I was going to do a refillable, and I made it out of brass, recycled brass, and then the packets were either compostable or they were recyclable at the very least.
But doesn't that make it more expensive?
Yeah, it does, yeah. It's something actually we don't even go on about as a brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How actually important that is to me. You would never know that from our website or anything. Maybe if you listen to our podcasts, but it's not like we don't greenwash anything, even though we really could. But we don't. I'm just like, again, it's a given that I would do that because I'm not going to exacerbate that problem. So yeah, now we've actually changed our decanter to glass. Mainly for scalability.
Yeah.
Brass became too expensive. They were becoming too imperfect. We wanted a screw lid. So we listened to the feedback about the brass one, and now we've changed it to glass, which is, again, you know, I will never use plastic, never. And even the lid is made out of aluminium.
Really?
Yeah. So again, it's like I look at every single thing and I'm like, no, I can't use it. I won't use that material. You know, there's another bottle. We're doing another product, and I found this amazing bottle and it was made out of plastic. I was like, no, not using it. It was amazing as well. And I was like,
no, but like I really respect that like you're not willing to compromise your ethics for
the sake
of a margin or the sake of like a prettier bottle.
No, exactly. So, I don't think the consumer cares though. I'll tell you that. I would go on about it more if I thought they care.
Maybe it's not the reason they buy it,
no.
but it is a great thing to know, like, side note, actually, that's great.
You know, all these companies who are going B Corp, I'm like, who are you doing it for? Because the general population do not care. They don't care. I've never met anybody ever who's ever come into our inbox and said anything about plastic, sustainability, not one thing.
No.
It's, can this work for me? Is it going to work for me? When is it going to work for me? You know. I
guess you don't know. Like when anyone goes into Holland and Barrett, you think like, right, which one's going to wake me up? Which one's going to help my anxiety?
Yeah.
You're not thinking like, I really hope that bottle is not single-use plastic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ultimately people are selfish. And that's, that's what it makes me realise. So while we could do a lot of these box ticking exercises, the B Corp stuff, that again, the vegan V, we are a vegan product. But when I rang up the company to get the vegan V to put on the packet, they were like, well, what's your turnover? I told them, and they go off what your turnover is. And I was like, well, you should just charge a rate for it. And it was a fucking fortune, by the way. And I thought, well, why
go through your turnover rather than your profit? Also, because you could have a massive turnover.
Exactly. So I was just like, no, I'm not. So we just put we made our own V and put that on the back of the packet.
Love that. Very enterprising.
Oh, and then if anybody asks, are you vegan? Yeah, we are. So
I love that, like, you've got this attitude where, like,
That's not a good value for money. That wasn't
No.
good value for money. And that's the one thing I look at is this good value for money? I don't think it is.
No, if that's going to cost a fortune, then put your MV on it. Because like for me, I won't have something that's not like a vegetarian product. Not because I'm a vegetarian. We won't go down that rabbit hole. It's got to have a V on it.
Yeah.
I just want to see the V.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it looks like.
No, you don't care if it's the little vegan sunflower, do you?
No.
From the Vegan Society, or if you're reading it and it says in
like
in
this
letters,
is vegan. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
otherwise, you're just putting loads of symbols on, paying each company a fortune, Leaping
which is
Bunny,
absolutely ridiculous.
Peter, you know what I mean?
No, you don't need to.
Don't need to.
No. So a lot of things in your life sound like, right, I wanted it, I went for it, I did it. No, I love that about you, because a lot of people are like, oh, it wasn't sure, or, you know, a lot of women suffer from imposter syndrome, or, you know, there are a lot of disasters, and like, it feels like you're just like,
oh, I get all that.
Fuck it, I'm going all in.
Don't think, this is like Elissa on camera today, you know what I mean? Believe me, there are so many days where I'm like, beta blockers today, because I'm like, fucking hell, I've got anxiety.
Oh, who doesn't love a nice propanolol?
I know. Honest to God, they're like a staple. And I honestly thought about putting it on LinkedIn, because I was like, should be in every entrepreneur's arsenal. Because Christ, sometimes I really need it to get through the day. Or when I do a bit of public speaking, you know, like to just give you that bit of confidence, or get rid of that shake out your voice or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of actors use it. A lot of theatre actors use it, which is great.
Yeah.
But have there been, how many years has Elle Sera been going now?
4 years.
So have there been any moments where you're like, I just don't know how to make this work right now? Or
I had one the other week when I was supposed to film this podcast with you, and I was like, fuck, I'm really sorry I can't make it.
Because that's the thing I think people need to hear about, because a lot of the time we hear the glossy stuff and the stuff that has gone really, really well. And actually, when I started my business and I'm like sitting on the floor in my coat by myself, howling.
Yeah, of course.
Vomit howling.
There's loads of that.
I'm thinking, no, who else is going through this? Who do I talk to?
Yeah.
I think we need to hear from people like that level of honesty about this is really, really bloody hard.
Yeah, there's loads. And then, you know, you see figures drop in, and this has happened, and that's happened. And there's always an obstacle. But just when you think things are going well, right, there's always, I've never had a day where I've gone back and gone, what a great week. Yeah, right? Where nothing's gone wrong. Even on the days when we were like absolutely doing our best figures one day, right? Best figures, orders just going ba-bing, 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 ba-bing. Like,
which must be such a rush.
Probably could make the claim like one sold every minute, yeah? Because it was like that mental.
Yeah.
Even on that day, I was like, we're running out of stock immediately.
There's always a problem.
And I'm panicking, and I'm on the phone, and I'm like screaming at people because they haven't delivered when they were supposed to deliver the stock, and blah, blah, blah. And there's always a panic. You know what I mean? There's always a panic. And I don't think there'll never not be that day. And if there isn't those days, then you're probably not doing it hard and fast enough.
And you're kind of a sucker for, like, as an entrepreneur, you're kind of a sucker for that punishment too, that chaos.
No, I wish it was. It depends what you want. Listen, what do you want? Do you want a nice lifestyle brand? Just get good wages.
What is it that you want out of Elle Sera? Like, if someone says 5 years' time, this is how it's going to be described, or what Elissa's achieved, is there any key things?
Definitely got a figure in mind, and then an exit plan, definitely. Yeah.
And I like that you're honest about that, because a lot of people are, when they're passionate about their brand, they feel uncomfortable talking about an exit plan, which I don't understand why. They've still made the great impact. Yeah. It's fair play. They've worked their ass off, and they're ready to exit out.
I'd still love to be involved in some way, and I have ideas for loads of different stuff. I actually have to hold myself back from
new products?
The new product development is like, I literally have a hard on for packaging and new product development all the time, or just something that will have a twist. On the way here, me and my partner, who's off camera, we're talking about a product, and I was like, that would really work. Let's just do it. And he's like, yeah, let's just do it. And now we're both very similar in the fact that we're like, it's fucking easy, let's just do it. And then it's not easy, but the idea doesn't scare us, or it doesn't scare me and things like that. Definitely well more confident than I ever was since starting this business.
Yeah.
Because I've learned so much. And by the way, there's no school you can ever go to learn
Absolutely
anything
not.
you're ever doing. Like, what the hell do I know about an e-commerce business? I didn't know a thing. I'm like, Shopify, new store. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I look back at those days when I was at the kitchen table, like making a website. You know, you never know how these things are going to go. And then picking a business name, picking a logo, you know.
It's those basic things where you think, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
How do I do this? How do I make this final decision on
Picking
this?
a box, finding a box manufacturer, doing it, do you know what I mean? Then like, you don't know what you don't know. You just think, there you go. How do you get a customer? I didn't know anything about performance marketing, paid for marketing.
Which is such a big,
oh my God,
such
huge.
a big thing.
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about that. So it was like, how do I get a customer? But what I did know is journalism. So started like writing like press releases.
Yeah, that must have given you a very competitive edge.
Yeah, still does, to be fair. I think it's still the biggest lever we ever pull. And like, I don't know why more brands don't do it.
So let's talk, to the level that you're comfortable with. But obviously I'm interviewing a journalist, so I'm like, got to probe.
Yeah.
Figures wise, do you know how much your business is currently worth?
Well, who's valuing it? You know what I mean?
Or what your turnover is?
I know exactly what the turnover is. How would I value it though? Probably would comfortable multi-millions turnover,
which is incredible.
Yeah. I'm not. Like literally, I have this exercise with my FD and with a few other people to see at what point, what's the North Star I want to get to. We're not quite at 5 million in rev yet, so that's my next milestone. That's
like big goal. Next big goal.
That's a nice milestone to get to, isn't it? And then I'll assess the landscape when we get to there of what I want to do next.
But that's incredible to even reach.
Yeah, of course.
In the millions is like.
Yeah.
It's so rare.
I know, yeah, and you take it for granted sometimes, don't you?
I feel like
talking to a lot of founders, and I do talk to a lot of founders and super successful people all the time. And then I'm like, I look at my own figures and I'm like, and then have you ever been on that website Particle?
No.
Go on Particle and have a look at some of your competitors on there, and I'm like, what the fuck? They're doing £1 million a month, you know what I mean? And
I know how that feels. When I started my business, I had a competitor and they obviously just like had a lot more money behind them. They were co-founders. I was a solo female founder that had come from earning 60 grand to turning over $500,000 my first year. Like I was completely out of my depth. But I would see, I would know because they would post on LinkedIn what their figures were for that year. And I think they made a £3 million profit in their first year,
nice.
And our company's open the same year.
Yeah.
Or
but listen, you got to look at what the support they had or whatever, because I started this business with 50 grand bounce back loan, and it washes its own face. It pays its own bills. You know what I mean? I've never taken any money. I've never.
Would you think about fundraise?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, whether it be from angels or a strategic partner. I think we're definitely at that stage where maybe we should, just to maybe for a bit more direction and expertise.
What about like reach? Are you just in the UK at the moment?
We send all over. We do get orders from all over. It's not something we've heavily marketed overseas, but we definitely could do.
Break the US.
Oh yeah, well that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I definitely need some money for that. Christ, or some.
You do need
Chris Jenner or somebody.
You need.
I feel like Chris Jenner should get on the golden pill. I'm going to manifest that.
But also
we have got one Hollywood A-lister on the golden pill. I can't tell you who it is. I know.
It's tragic.
Fucking nightmare.
That's a nightmare, because if they admitted they were on it and recorded something and you used it in your performance marketing, oh my God.
I know. It'd be amazing.
Viral.
I know. But listen, hey ho. Because the thing is, you can pay like any celebrity, can't you?
Yeah.
I've never done that. Like you can pay any.
Do you sometimes send like free packages?
Yeah, potentially, yeah. But even then, most of our like celebrity people have just bought it and then been recommended it. You know what I mean? Nearly every single person has done that. And that's authentic to us because I'm not just going to buy someone's opinion. It reeks inauthenticity. And, you know what I mean? And I just think it doesn't sit right with me, because we could go and pay, I don't know, God, Kim Cattrall or somebody like that to say, well, we're on the golden pill, and it would cost us like £500,000 or whatever it would cost for her and everything else. But, you know, what's the point in that? Yeah. You want somebody to be like in love with the brand and want to work with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me and my ego holding me back. Who knows? But no, I want somebody to be like,
you're authentic,
in love with the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And like us for the right reasons.
You know what? I'll put it out to my 1,500 followers. It's great.
Yeah.
And I get my mum to do it for her 112 as well. Yeah. That's authentic.
Nice testimonial.
Yeah,
that'd be
exactly. Great. So what I'd love to finish off with is your genuine advice for, obviously, a female-focused podcast, so I'm going to speak for female founders who are at idea stage and kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, what is your advice to them? Not so much logistically, but the attitudes you have and how you've gone for things.
I feel like, you know, this whole like female founder thing is just irrelevant. Listen, there's loads of people in the same boat, male or female. If you're a founder of a startup, fair play, do you know what I mean? So anyone in that position, if you're at like ideas stage and how to push it forward, biggest advice would be, I don't know, try and test the market in some way. Look at data. Is the stuff that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You really don't. Try and find a product that you actually like, are passionate about, and like buy it, use it. How can you improve on it? You know, whether it's a suitcase or it's a hairbrush or whatever it might be, right? Buy it, use it. Can you improve on it? You can literally find any product but do it a bit better than what's currently out there. And I think that's all you need to do. I say hairbrush, by the way, because I've got a friend who did just that and did really well. She was one member of staff and did £1 million in her first year. Her name's Rebecca. She'd have her on, actually. She's great. And she's got a business called ProBlow. And she had this hairbrush, and she calls it a broken hairbrush, but basically it's got a brush handle and then it's got a roller on the end, and you do your blow dry and then you click it off and then you put it onto the next one. And so she's taken a hairbrush idea and then made it better. And it's now, she must have been going 10 years now, multi-million pound business, global business. And it's just solely owned by her. So she's done really well. So it's not that you need to reinvent the wheel, just do it slightly better. And that would be my biggest advice to anybody. Okay,
brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. You've actually been a real hoot.
Thanks very much.
It's been really fun. And I hope to see you continue to succeed and grow and take over, because I genuinely think that what you're doing is, aside from the headlines for PR, you're genuinely doing something that will really, really, really help women. So big respect.
Thanks very much for having me on and allowing me to chat. And
it was wonderful.
Let's keep in touch.